Welcome to the Start Something Show. Join world-renowned experts, change agents, and everyday folks who have done the amazing. All here to help you start something incredible. Now it's time to step out, live your perfect day, and create a legacy with your host, Tina Dietz.
Welcome to the Start Something Show. This is Tina Dietz, and hi to my super starters out there. Today on the show, we have GuruNanda, who is a really interesting guy. He went from being a very successful entrepreneur to being a very successful yoga teacher and author. I love these stories of transition from the corporate world or the world of traditional business to the holistic world. My own family had a similar transition when I was growing up, so I got to witness this firsthand. As a lot of you know out there, I grew up inside of my parents' retail business. What you might not know is that when I was a teenager, they both transitioned out of that world and into the holistic world. My mother becoming a yoga teacher and owning her own yoga studio, and my father going on to become a massage therapist and an international advanced technique trainer for other massage therapists. So I'm really interested to hear more about his journey from stressed out and sick, unhealthy entrepreneur to the visionary speaker, leader, and author that he is today. Very cool story. We'll get to that in a little bit. And today is our tech tip of the month for the Start Something Show. And I have to admit, I'm feeling a little old. I heard about this app called Periscope, which for a lot of people now, by the time this show is airing, I'm sure that you have heard about. But if you haven't, Periscope was bought by its original company earlier in 2015 by Twitter for, get this, $100 million. $100 million. Now, if that doesn't make you want to send your kids to coding camp to learn how to, code apps, I don't know what will. I'm like looking for one for my kids right now. But the Periscope app is basically a live streaming, live broadcasting app that's attached to your Twitter account. Currently, it's only available for OS users, so iPhone folks. But I have a feeling with this popularity and given the number of people who are already subscribed in just the first few months, that this is going to be on the Android platform very, very soon. So I feel a little bit, I said I was feeling a little bit old. That's because this has a little bit of a flavor of the Truman Show to me, that Jim Carrey movie from way back when. Now I really feel old. Jeez. And because basically what you do at the app is you can live broadcast whatever you're doing to your following, and they can interact with you live. So for example, if I had my Periscope app going right now as I'm recording this show, you could ask me questions to pass on to my guest or ask questions of me about what I'm doing or how I'm doing the show. That's the kind of application that we're seeing. Also, people doing things as simple as live broadcasting, walking their dog. I don't know. There's a lot available. It'll be interesting to see how people start to use the Periscope app. There's also been some issues about piracy and people live casting, I think it was HBO's Game of Thrones, and HBO not real happy about people broadcasting Game of Thrones to other people who did not have HBO. So watch your butts out there with what you're doing. Make sure you're not pirating material and broadcasting illegally. No. You can check out the Periscope app at periscope.tv. Oh, and by the way, if you've got a tech tip that you'd like to share with us, a brand new app, a piece of equipment, something really cool, it doesn't even have to be business related. We love to review things here on the Start Something Show that are travel related or just make people's lives better and easier. Go ahead and send us an email at thestartsomethingshow.com right through our Contact Us page. And if we use it on the show, we will send you something cool. Superstarters, our guest today is GuruNanda, also known as Nanda, an entrepreneur-turned-yogi and the author of GuruNanda's Happy Breath Yoga, Wall Street Yoga. His business accomplishments include the successful oral care brand Dr. Fresh, which earned him 2011's Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year award and an active position with the Young Presidents Organization. However, his 16-hour work days filled with stress, poor eating habits, and a lack of exercise took a dire toll on his health. And so he rediscovered the yoga he loved as a child in India and incorporated meditation and Ayurvedic practices to transform his body and his life. Now his mission is to help Type A Wall Street personalities turn distress into de-stress and live a fuller, happier, healthier life. And you can find all the details at GuruNanda.com. GuruNanda, thank you so much for starting something with me today.
Namaste, Tina.
Namaste.
I'm glad you invited me here. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I really, really loved your book. And this whole concept of Wall Street yoga and the Wall Street personality. Now, I've never worked on Wall Street myself, but I would definitely qualify as a Type A personality. I don't think there's too many of us out there who are entrepreneurs who could not qualify as a Type A personality, you know?
Exactly. And you necessarily don't have to work on the stock market to be a Wall Street personality. As per my thought, anybody who's a mom of 4 kids, hauling them down to activities in the school and later on after the school, and apart from that, also working a part-time job, that's Wall Street personality. You're a single mom doing 20 things and running around and taking care of the kid, that's a Wall Street personality as well. And of course, somebody who was in my shoes running a business and also doing 20 other things at one time. And normally I used to think if I'm not doing 4 or 5 things or multitasking, that means I'm actually not utilizing my time correctly. So that was my thought process. So there are a lot of us around. That's why the world is so creative and growing, because I believe that Vata personalities, as per Ayurveda, are people who are Type A, who have a lot of air and space in them, which means they are very creative, they are very expansive, but also, as with air, you have to channelize it. So you actually, if you know how to channelize your creativity, and put some more earth in it, means put some more base in it, then you can actually live a very happy, healthy life and be extremely creative as well as more organized.
Well, I think if we can put organization and creativity into the same space, I think that is kind of an ideal for so many of us who are small business owners and entrepreneurs. I love that. Let's take a step back for a moment, because your story, I really want to share your story with everyone. Would you take us back to when you were getting started initially, or in this transition now you've had to becoming an author and speaker? When did you know that you wanted to change your life and start something new?
I actually started from scratch when I came to America from India. And prior to that, you need to read the book to kind of know the whole story. Otherwise, it would take up all your time. So I started from scratch. I built up a company that was a pretty sizable company. We had over 100 employees, and we built up several brands. But then at one point, I had a hyper anxiety attack, which I thought was, or at least Natalie, my assistant, thought was a heart attack. And we ended up in a hospital, and the doctor said, you are literally going through a extremely tumultuous situation. You're working 19-hour days. You're not exercising. You're literally not sleeping. And your mind is racing 24/7. And I thought you're from India, so don't you do yoga or meditation? You need to start doing that, because India has provided such good concepts to the world and you're not doing it. So that's when my long lost love for yoga kind of arose, when I used to do yoga in school, and I just made up my mind, it's time I change. And once I decide on something, I really go forward. And that is what precipitated into me literally selling off the business and putting all my efforts into going into every ashram around the globe. I visited 19 ashrams. I lived in those ashrams for months at a time, and I learned yoga to the nth degree, and I learned that breathing is the key to life. Breathing is right under your nose. It's easy. I was very inflexible. I couldn't do the poses that people do here. And once I was in the right ashram, I realized that poses are a secondary thing. I also realized that poses, once you are in a pose, what cures you is the breath or the prana. So when you're in a pose and you take the right breath and let the breath heal you, that's when you get cured. That's when strength, flexibility, and balance arises. So that's what I decided. And I implemented those principles of yoga, which is strength, flexibility, and balance, into what my Wall Street personality is. Basically, I have deciphered that if you are flexible, means if you are doing a business deal and if you're ready to bend, or then you have more chances to do a business deal much better. And similarly, if you're strong to your principles, you would not falter. You have to maintain your quality. So you're strong to your principles. And the third principle of yoga is balance. You have to have a work-life balance, because most of us, while we are young entrepreneurs trying to build up businesses, we forget that we just go on and on without realizing that our health, our families, our relationships are equally important, because that's why we are alive and that's why we live in a society. And what is this business good for if we're lying in a bed with a stroke and hand not working? So that is very important to maintain balance, and that's exactly what yoga teaches us.
Now, I was mentioning earlier in the show that both of my parents ended up becoming yoga teachers, transitioning from a successful retail background. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to bring your story forward, because it's near and dear to my heart. And, one of our core messages here at the show is to make sure that people understand that it's all about having sustainability in your success. And it's so much of a core. It's essential to take care of yourself dearly, so that we, like you said, don't end up not being able to enjoy the fruits of our labors, or, not having the relationships that are going to nurture us. Now, on this path, it's never a straight line. As you were going through this transition and going from one very different industry to the other, what did you kind of have to deal with in terms either internal or external setbacks, failures, or, breakthroughs did you have to make this happen?
Number one, I was very focused on growing, because it's a competitive world, and I was mostly selling to dollar stores. I was mostly being in a developed market of toothbrushes, which is very competitive, and I was literally trying to work 24 hours because I had business in China. I had business, of course, in the United States, in New York and LA, and then we bought a company in London. So I was working off all the 3 time zones. And when I realized that when I was in the hospital, literally sitting down when the doctor said, we may have to do an angiogram to make sure your heart is working properly, I realized that all what I've done is not worth it. And I should have taken care of myself rather being in this situation. That was the big moment of realization. And once I had that, I immediately took corrective actions. I said, I have done enough that an entrepreneur needs to do, and maybe it's high time I let somebody else take over the reins and me sit back and try to do what I would do to fix myself, which is the other part of the life that I have not taken care of. So for anybody who's in my position, I would say learn from what I have done and read the book, GuruNanda, Happy Breath Yoga. And what I've done is start incorporating 14 minutes of yoga and meditation in your daily life. And you don't have to get out and become a yogi or go to the ashrams. But once you initiate yoga in your life, the yogic lifestyle kind of turns you in. Then you can do it for half hour or an hour as per your thought process. But I would tell you, it would bring so much balance to your life, and it would change your life that you would not even believe. It has changed mine, and I'm guaranteeing it would change yours.
So many people have some misconceptions about yoga. Now, this has gotten a lot less because yoga has gotten a lot more mainstream in the last 20 years. But for example, a lot of people have kind of a reaction to the term guru. And yet, this actually doesn't mean what most people think it means. Isn't that correct?
That is so correct. Actually, guru is a Sanskrit word, and guru means teacher. So when I was young in my school, I used to call Guruji, which is respectfully to my teacher. And when I learned yoga and when I was ready to teach, my guru told me, now you can go as GuruNanda. And he introduced me to the new people that were in the class as GuruNanda, means teacher Nanda. So absolutely, I agree. Guru word has been overutilized in the West. Like there is guruseat.com and there is gurufocus.com in Wall Street, and there's so many other gurus. And then there's been movies on guru. It absolutely means somebody who's ready to enlighten others. And I basically would always remain a student, and I'll always remain a teacher. Means I will try to teach, but I'm always open to learning as much new things as possible.
That's so much the key in being with the people that we're wanting to serve, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, now, when this whole transition happened, how did the people around you feel about it?
They were very surprised. I had a tough time when I did my first YouTube video and put it out. Everybody who had not been in touch with me just because I was wondering was shocked and said, this can't be you. Means even my old employees were shocked, and this became a little bit of a gossip thing that they couldn't believe that Dr. Fresh is now doing what he's doing. And it was a big transition, but I had made up my mind. And I was feeling elated rather than not. And I had learned one thing in this life: you do what you feel good at rather than trying to please everybody else in the world or creating an image that you are not. So I was Dr. Fresh when I was running a company. I was very strict. I was the Wall Street personality. And now that I'm not, I believe that I'm more balanced. So I'm a teacher, so I'm GuruNanda, which is okay. And you also asked me a question, how is it different from the West versus the East? In the West, yoga has been more of a physical activity, and it has been more like doing yoga in sexy, stretchy pants and maintaining figures. But yoga is not just that. That's one part of yoga. And yoga is an 8-limbed tree, and that's what I explain in my book. Yoga also, the ultimate goal for yoga is to be spiritual. And yoga is not a religion at all. Many people have done lawsuits on school districts about teaching yoga because they believe it's religious. It's not. It just brings you to your spiritual self. It ensures that your mind and body have a connection rather than you just doing everything physically. So that's what yoga is all about. And I practice a lot of breathing because I believe breath is the connection between your conscious and subconscious self. Because you can breathe while you're sleeping, you can breathe consciously. And if you have a lot of subconscious basura or garbage that is in yourself, for example, if one of your parents said, "Oh, you look terrible," and that thing when you were 3 years old is still stuck in your subconscious level, and that kind of makes an image or projects an image. It acts like a projector when you're 30, and that subconscious thing in your heart is going to actually project itself in a much bigger way. So how do you fix it? You fix it either by going to a therapy program, or you try to fix it by breath, your own breath sitting at home. And you breathe it out and you make your breath act as a bridge between your conscious and subconscious self, and let all your subconscious things get out. Learn forgiveness. Learn some of the principles of yoga. You would not believe. You would have cleaned up your body and purified not just your physical self, but your emotional self, purified your soul, literally.
I think that's something we could all use a little bit more of. So you had said that 14 minutes a day is what the practice that you recommend to get started with, which makes a lot of sense to me because I know, like you said, doing exercises in sexy, stretchy pants is not exactly what I would want to go to yoga for. And, so much of westernized yoga is not really yoga. It's like aerobics slowed down, unfortunately. So in your book, what are the routines like? What are some of the elements that are included?
So what I've done is I have put several routines. Number one, what they are doing in Sexy Stretchy Pants is not bad. It's great because it is at least getting them initiated into the right direction. Because whenever I talk to someone coming out of a yoga class, he's talking about earth. He's talking about being natural. He's talking about not eating factory foods. He's talking about the good stuff in life. He's the one who will go to Whole Foods and other stores and buy good stuff that is available. Make sure it's organic. Make sure it's non-GMO. And that is what is yoga. It's basically the principles. He's at least adapting some of them right away. And in my book, what I've done is I've tried to initiate everybody who's a Wall Street personality, because Wall Street personalities have very short span of thought process. You can literally, 14 minutes is a long time for them. And so what I've done is I've done 10 minutes of yoga, which includes a lot of breathing and a lot of simple yogic moves for people who are very inflexible. And then added 2 minutes of meditation in the morning and 2 minutes in the evening. Then apart from that, I've also got segments of 14 minutes for specific issues. For example, if you're trying to lose weight, or if you have a back pain, or if you have some other issue, then I've done 14-minute segments specifically for them. But I always say, if you cannot do anything else, just do some breathing, some laughter yoga, and some meditation. And for the poses, just learn sun salutation. So even if you had no other knowledge of yoga and you started 11 times sun salutation every day, plus 5 times of the breathing pranayama moves that I have on GuruNanda.com, then you're all set.
Beautiful. Yeah, we want to make sure that it's, like you said, introduce people to this concept of, how much something as simple as paying attention to the breath can make in your day-to-day life.
We take care of our muscles outside on our physical body, but we don't take care of our internal organs. And a diaphragm is the regulator of breath. And if we can do some breathing yogic pranayamas, which is the exercise of breathing, then we can train our diaphragm to act as basically a stimulator to our entire metabolism. We can literally melt our fat just by utilizing our diaphragm correctly.
Say some more about that. How does that work?
Our diaphragm is a muscle that is basically between our stomach and our heart, our chest. And the diaphragm is working 24/7. It's while you're sleeping, it's still working because it's the one that regulates your air. It's a parachute-like muscle. When you deep breathe in, it flattens up. And when you breathe out, it comes back into the parachute shape. So what we are doing nowadays is we're sitting hunchbacked in front of our computers 24/7. We're driving our cars stressed out. So we're actually constricting that diaphragm to work properly. But once we do the pranayama, the diaphragm is able to regulate and work our lungs to its full capacity. Not full capacity, but optimum capacity. And because our lungs only work like 15, 20% of their full capacity. And then what diaphragm does is once the prana or the oxygen, the nutrients, they all enter you and go all the way to your cell member, to your cells of your body, and pass through the cell membrane, go into the cytoplasm. They basically, as with any metabolic activity, turn oxygen into carbon dioxide and push them out from the cell membrane. In this whole process, if our diaphragm is not working correctly, there are several cells that are not getting that prana correctly. So what happens is there's cell death, there's cell loss, or cell disease. So if we can regulate our diaphragm properly, then we can literally regenerate all those cells or fix them through the prana, through the oxygen, through the nutrients that we can supply all the way to every cell in our body. So just by breathing, you can fix a lot of issues. So as in yoga, they say breathing is curative and poses increase your flexibility. So poses increase your strength, poses increase your balance, but everything, the agni or the fire behind everything or the curative part of the entire yoga is the breathing. So once you're in a pose, you breathe, and how you breathe and how you think makes the pose work 10 times more for you or 20 times more for you. So most of the action that is missing today in yoga sessions, because if you're doing a yoga session in a closed atmosphere with temperatures that are not conducive, or if that's good too in some ways, but you cannot just be in a little studio with doing yoga in a constricted atmosphere, then what happens is you're actually not doing totally good. You're actually forming your own principles. I am teaching what I learned from the Vedic yoga. So as per that, breathing while you're in a pose is the most important part of yoga.
So it's not twisting yourself into a pretzel. It's the breath.
Twisting yourself helps, but to get to that flexibility level and to get to that situation and really derive the benefit of curative part of it is through breathing. So yes, you could be a great gymnast because you're a born gymnast or you had been into it. But if you already in a problem, if you already have put 40 years of toxins and stress on yourself, how do you get out of it? There is where breathing comes in very handy.
All right, everyone take a moment and take a deep breath. That's right now. So, GuruNanda, if you were just starting out today, again, and you had your knowledge, but not the resources you've developed over the years, and this is for our listeners out there, what would be some of the first things that you would do to start something today?
I would tell you whatever you want to get into. A lot of people, when I go to USC to lecture at the entrepreneurial MBA kids, everybody asks me, they do not have funding. How do we get into business? I think the number one most important thing is passion. If you have passion, everything falls in line. And the other thing most people do a mistake is, let me hire a CFO, let me hire a CTO. Now, for some technology companies, capital is very important. But if your idea is correct and if your passion is strong, the only way you can actually build up company is by having those two ingredients, and some money, seed money for sure, is important. It's part of you being in business. But if I had to start all over again, I would look at opportunities where other people have not gone into. When I started a toothbrush business here, there was Colgate, there was Procter & Gamble, there were already major companies. And I wanted to strive to become like them. So the reason I was able to do that was I saw an opportunity at 99-cent stores or at Dollar Tree where they were not being fed by the big giants with the right kind of product. And I saw that opportunity, I jumped onto it. I gave them a product that was equal quality as the major brands with 1/4 the price. And I became a brand on its own in a different class of segment. And I would say I would look at similar opportunities. What is missing is if there is a need, I need to fill that up, whether it be in the United States or it be in China. There's a lot of things that you can get in the US that are not available in China. I would buy a ticket and go to China and start work there if that needs to be, because I have always thought of this world as one level playing field, and I would always think of it that way.
Brilliant. Thank you for bringing that perspective, that global perspective into this, as so many small business owners are looking very close to home, which is great, but maybe it's time to think at a more global level and bring that problem solving to that point. I love it. So thank you so much for joining me today, GuruNanda, and for sharing with us. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Superstarters, you can find the Backstage Pass with GuruNanda. We're going to be diving deeper both into his experience in business and into some breath techniques and habit building and some more information on Happy Breath Yoga on the Backstage Pass at thestartsomethingshow.com. We'll see you there.
Start something with purpose. Start something with freedom. Start something now. Go to thestartsomethingshow.com, join our community of superstarters, and get your perfect day planner pack, a free resource to help you create the life you've dreamed of living. Take action now, and we'll see you for our next exciting episode.